Dewey, I met last week with young folks from Charlotte. And they are in the process of using existing platform technology. I mean, things, you know, Foursquare and Facebook and all of those. After we discussed for about 2 hours low-hanging fruit and where their point of entry might be in this industry, we identified municipalities, regions, and counties. And it was a perfect overlay. In fact, I mentioned you and want to get together for a meeting.
That would be great.
With these two folks, one of which just came back from Silicon Valley. He's been very involved in those processes and has just a wonderful Rolodex and network of people who could have an interest in helping to support financially a project like this.
Well, that would be great for us too. I mean, this is I think it's a jewel just waiting to be polished. And so whether we had a private sector collaborator or collaborators from the private sector, research-based institutions, I think that's going to be very important. What role do you see for the Future Economy Council in this process as well? I know Danny has some thoughts on this, Terry might, but what about the rest of you? Do you see some opportunities? You know, do you see a nexus between the Future Economy Council and the work that you're doing in this process?
Well, I mean, it's something that I definitely would like to see happen in the local area to get more of a grassroots involvement from an ambivalent public. Maybe we could get a little bit more interest, but I mean, I think that we have to have a marketing program associated with, you know, this effort to get the word out and get more people involved. I mean, if we throw this out here and we don't engage the public in it, then it just will sit there.
Well, I'd like to suggest that as the Future Economy Council identify projects that may have some bearing on local government, there could be some pilots there. There could be, whether it's through the Land Use Development Board, this group comes up with an idea, something that needs to be tackled. I really see this group being kind of the eyes and ears of how local government can impact our community. I mean, just in terms of your role. We've talked about businesses. We've talked about this changing world. And so, to what extent can you all identify some opportunities for collaboration? It would be just like Bill has identified as well. It would be very helpful.
Well, could this group not sponsor or host this presentation for local governments throughout the county? I mean, I'm not sure whether.
I think the initial inlay and our, as you say, low-hanging fruit entry point into this is that, you know, obviously we need economic development in this area, and the citizenry needs to get more involved in that process instead of that being a top-down process and it just being that we point to Scott Millar. I think he's doing a great job, and that isn't anything against him. It's like, but I think that if we network more into that process of the economic development, and you know, I think that a lot of people they don't want to step forward because they don't want to step on any toes as far as, you know, going out here and seeking to, you know, we talk about this entrepreneurial issue. I mean, the number one, we can't get a hold of the capital. I mean, I think that's the whole thing that is holding us back on the I mean, that's one of the things that's holding us back as far as the Future Economy Council goes. I mean, we've applied for all these grants. We can't get a hold of them because nobody's got any capital.
Yeah.
You know, the capital markets are frozen. So, I mean, you know, we need to generate some energy as far as to move down that road.
And I think the partnerships, the one that Bill mentioned, is very interesting to me. I know we're going to talk after this meeting about that. But I guess I'm looking for comments on how this group can feed into this process. I think that's an example, identifying potential partners. I think just your interest, and so maybe I come back in a few months, I can give you an update on where we are, since I'm part of the Future Economy Council as well. I'd be willing to do that. But Danny, back to your point, I think that for us, we really need to get that research-based institution on board. But to your point, maybe there's an opportunity in terms of talking to local governments about this, that it's kind of the chicken and the egg thing. Maybe we do need to get some interest from them as well.
Yeah, I can see that an individual, if they're looking at this as either a passion or a profit, they're probably not going to have the patience to sit around with 15 people while they debate back and forth what ought to be the first and what could be the perfect, as opposed to finding something, finding an application, running with it, see if it works, tweak out the bugs, and having something demonstrable. And our enlightened self-interest would be use the entry point, how can the county play a role in this? And how can this technology be used to make a difference? From their point, what's the feasibility? What's the proof of concept and the feasibility as potentially a business model or changing the world? So I think that would not necessitate having everybody in the community or everybody on the body on board with it. Should be aware of it and maybe play a supportive role. But I don't know that either would have the patience to wait to perfect it before rolling it out, to involve and engage everyone.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
Are you talking about local government? If they were in the room, they wouldn't have the patience. Who you referring to?
Oh, I do.
Or
Certainly
anybody.
local government, because they're typically the last to change away. But you're saying, should we be involved, the Future Economy Council? I think getting informed and having some of those who have an interest involved. But I wouldn't want to see it slowed down or encumbered.
At our last meeting, we had Donald Duncan that talked about the transportation center that's down there at Conover, and one thing that he talked about is how he's gone around to the individual groups, because there are a lot of people that are sitting there saying, why are we spending all this money on this? And we have to get those people on board. Now, I don't think that we're going to get the average Joe citizen out here to get personally involved in any of this. They're busy and they're leading lives, and this isn't their passion. But as you say, we have to, in an effort of collaboration, get them to understand that this is a process that is necessary to move this community forward.
Well, last year at our Chamber Strategic Planning session, one of the real things was this Appalachian Regional Campus, and I got really excited about that this was a whole new concept of a campus. I've been a little disappointed that it sort of hasn't taken hold, that the people haven't gotten excited. I mean, proof is that this is really an Appalachian Regional Campus effort, and I don't think we have much subscription to it outside Catawba County. And I wonder if something like this couldn't be used to excite the various institutions and the people of all the counties that served by the Appalachian Regional Campus, and that might be a reason for them to be involved in depth is to try to create give some life to this concept of a regional campus.
Dewey, what do you think is the biggest roadblock over the next 12 to 18 months, and what's the best way to overcome that?
With this process?
Yes.
This whole program? Well, I think, again, the biggest one in my mind is actually getting that research-based institution. And I think that's going to be very helpful for the reasons that we've stated. But other than that, I think that, I just really don't see any challenges at all. I think it's going to be relatively easy to identify a pilot program. And there could be some challenges, for example, if we have a national network, that just making sure that people can attend meetings and whatnot, and so we'll have to use technology for that. It's going to be difficult to expect somebody from Oregon to travel every other month to participate in this process in terms of being on the network. So I think that could be a challenge, but we can overcome that with technology. The biggest thing in my mind, again, is just the university. Support.
Well, could we, you talked about Conover Station, could that be some low-hanging fruit to take? You've got a visionary committee sell and they continue to ask questions, well, is it worth it? Why we spend all the money?
Yeah.
Use the principles of local governments, narrow it focus to Conover and Conover Station and helping to sell it to residents and the county at large, and start small with Conover and
Yeah.
use this in marketing and communicating to Conover residents about what the future, how that's gonna change the future of the community.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm on board with that, and I think that would be a good person for you to talk to move that process forward, because he talks about how he's having to intensely go in and meet small groups of people in order to get them on board with this idea, so that at some point in time, if they hit some roadblocks, there's not going to be a choke point where they say, okay, we're not putting any money into this. Just think if you put 3/4 to 80% of the money and all of a sudden you hit a little roadblock there, and then the community all collapses down on top of you, then you've put all that money and that intensive effort into making that move forward, and all of a sudden somebody's going to come in and cut you off at the knees. Well, that's a wasted effort, and you need to move that process forward.
I'll talk to Donald about that. I see him at least a couple times a month.
Or maybe show this to his council, and maybe that could be something this group could help with as a.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
As a matter of fact, on the December 3rd, Dewey, they're having Conover's having a strategic planning, an all-day retreat.
There you go.
And I wonder if a presentation, a 30, 45-minute presentation, might be stimulative for those folks. You're going to have you're going to have the administrators, county manager, mayor, or city manager, mayor, all of the council, all of the department heads, and some citizenry. Still a small group, probably be 18 to 20 in the group. And then to raise that issue of using some type of platform approach like this to help disseminate information and excitement about the Conover Station.
What's the status of moving Manufacturing Solutions Center into Conover Station? Is that still talking, or is that?
Pretty much done.
I think that's extremely exciting.
Absolutely.
And reaches that out beyond Conover.
It does, and we're actually going to be placing one of our libraries in that facility as well.
That's become a very high-profile project, so if something could be linked to it.
That's a great idea.
Are you facilitating that again? Well, Bill's facilitating their day-long retreat, could certainly add that. I mean, Terry and I could come and introduce it, and then
That would be fun.
while future county council is involved, and then turn it over to you.
Well, subject to that pleasing
Yeah.
the folks and being part of the agenda, absolutely.
And I think thinking about the schedule, if they had a packed agenda, I mean, we can shorten this presentation.
I think it would need to be a little bit shorter, more concise, and be as an introduction to something that would be a catalyst.
Yeah, we can cut out
Because some of these people have never touched an iPhone and couldn't turn on a computer.
Yeah, and I think you gotta show what does it do for them. In
What's in it
15
for them?
yeah, what's in it for, I hate to say what's in it for me, but that's, well, you know how councils, I mean, that's what they,
And it
what's
sounds
in
like-
it for me.
And it sounds like what could be interesting, to them would be the fact that they can get that public input.
Yeah.
If they truly want it, I mean, this would be a good process for that. Again, I think we need the technology so that people can provide input, and so whether that's,
It's a good way to get people back into libraries that we're building. We're still building libraries.
Well, the one thing is that it gets everybody pulling in the same direction. It gets everybody on the same page. It gets the understanding there, the comprehension of what the effort is about. I mean, there's an all right, when you lay facts out on the table and people come to different conclusions, that's fine. But when they're coming to conclusions when they don't have the facts, we have a lot of, I mean, is that not the reason why that we're trying to bring this into development, is to get those facts out there so that we can all, make educated and intellectual decisions instead of, that 15-second soundbite on the television that's not
oh, I agree.
Well,